Akkam jirtu maatiiwwan Rubii Akaadamii bakka gara YouTube chaanalii keenyaatti nagaan dhuftan isiniin jenna. Yeroo darbee paartii dabarsine keessatti jechuudha. Paartii 45ffaa keessatti waa'ee verb patternii waliin ilaallee turre. Verb patternii bakka meeqatti akka qoodaman, akkamitti immoo gaaffii kanaan wal qabatan deebisuu akka qabdu waliin ilaallee turre jechuudha. Har'as leesonii baay'ee barbaachisaa tokko keessattuu qormaata biyyoolessaa irratti baay'ee kan argitan gaaffii dialoog deebisuu akka dandeessaniif barannoo tokko qabannee isiniif dhiyaanneerra. Kanas kutaa lamatti qoqqoodnee isiniif dhiyeessina. Kutaa tokkoof lama jechuudha. Har'aa kutaa tokkoffaa isiniif dhiyeessina. Kanaaf hamma dhumaatti yoo nu hordoftan gaaffiiwwan kanaan wal qabatan deebisuu akka dandeessan gamanumaan si yaadachiifna. Mee gaaffiiwwan kan qormaata biyyoolessaa irraa kan fudhataman mee ilaala akkamitti akka deebifnu. Meetu gaaffii kun siif kenname akkamitti deebifta? If this question is given for you, how do you answer? These are directly taken from perseverance exam of different years. So if this question is given for you, how do you answer? Look says, how do you do? See, here is a conversation between secretary and visitor. Secretary say, how do you do? See, here the visitor blah. How do you do? What's the response for how do you do? If somebody say, how do you do? How do you answer? Is this one really asking the wellness or well-being of your conditions? So we will see this one in explanation later on. So if this option is given, how do you answer? A, how do you do? B, I'm fine. How are you? C, I'm fine. How do you do? D, very well. How do you do? So what's the best answer for this one? If somebody asks you, how are you? And if somebody say, how do you do they have the same response? No, they don't have the same response. We will see such types of question when we start the presentation. The second question, conversation between Eldana and a friend. Eldana says, it is time late. It's going to rain a lot. It's going to rain a lot. Then friend say, something here. Then I don't want to get my hair wet. I don't want to get my hair wet. So this is the person supporting or against. It is time we left. It is going to rain a lot. Then friend say something here. Then I don't want to get my hair wet. I don't want to get my hair wet means the person is supporting. So which one is supporting expressions from this one? Or which one is which expression we use in order to agree? I couldn't agree more. Is I couldn't agree more is expressions that we use for agree or disagree? B, should we really go? C, what do you tell me? D, we have been here for long. So if you follow this lesson from the beginning to the end, you will answer this question or such type of question easily. So follow us here. Let's proceed to what dialogue is. Dialogue is a conversation between two or more speakers in which ideas, opinions, information, or feelings are exchanged in a natural and a logical sequence. Natural in a logical sequence. So there's a way of exchanging information between two or more people. That's what we call dialogue. So dialogue and the conversation is not the same anyhow. Dialogue is which is planned. Conversation is unplanned. So it's not the same. Anyhow, it is a type of conversation which is used between two or more speakers in which we used to exchange information. That's what we call dialogue. Dialogue, its main purpose is to communicate ideas naturally, exchange information, and reveal attitudes, emotions, or relationships. This is the purpose of dialogue. Now, let's proceed to types of dialogues. Dialogues divided into different parts based on function and based on formality. The first based on function. For what purpose? It means for what purpose it is used. Informative dialogue, that is giving information, informing someone, giving information for somebody. That's what you call informative dialogue. The second one, interrogative dialogue. This one is asking questions, maybe permission or whatever. That's what you call interrogative dialogue. The other, persuasive dialogue. Persuasive dialogue means used to convince someone, to persuade someone or to convince someone to accept your idea. The other, problem solving dialogue. This one is finding solution, a type of dialogue that is used to find a solution for certain issue or problem. The other, the fifth one, transactional dialogue. Transactional dialogue means is a type of dialogue that is held between customers and sellers or buyers. Here is buying, booking. Booking means booking. Example, if you want to go to certain places, if you are not physically available at that place, you tell to that person in order to save a place for you, maybe for ticket, for bedroom or whatever. That's what they call booking. And also requesting, that's what they call transactional dialogue. The other, social dialogue. Social dialogue is especially greeting or small talk between or among the students or friends. So these all are type of dialogue which are based on function. Based on function. The second one is a dialogue based on situation. This one is, you say, formal and informal. Formal conversation, between teacher and the student, between police and witness, between interviewer and the candidate. So this is any type of dialogue which held formal. But this one is informal, between friends and between family members. So based on situation, dialogues are divided into two, formal and informal. So our focus is mostly, in order to answer question, we have to focus on the formal one. Now let's proceed. Golden rule for answering dialogue questions. In order to answer such types of question, first and foremost, ask yourselves, who is speaking? What is the relationship? The relationship between the speaker and the one who is response. That means the one who asks and the one who give a response. What relationship between them? You have to ask yourself before answering this question. Kanaaf amma gaaffiiwwan dialoogii jedhaman hojjechuudhaaf qabiyyee kana beekuun baay'ee barbaachisaadha. Kunis gaafa jalqabnu eenyutu dubbachaa jira kan jedhu ilaaluudha. Is a police, teacher, a student, manager, who is speaking? You have to identify. Then what's the relationship? If two speakers are there, amma nama lamatu jirate waliin dubbachaa jiru yoo ta'e, isaan walitti dhufeenyi isaanii maayini kan jedhu sirriitti ilaaluun bareeda. Fakkeenyaaf the relationship between teacher and the student, and the police and the witness, secretary and the manager. What relationship they have? In order to answer the question, you have to know the relationship, because if you know the relationships, you can a bit more answer a question, because such types of conversation is between formal. It's not informal way, formal ways of conversation or dialogue. The other, what's the intention? What the intention was he wants to transmit, or what the message he wants. The other, is the situation formal or informal? How do we know which is formal, informal? Between the participants, we can easily identify. Example, the conversation between police and the witness, teacher and the student must be formal. Here, and the correct option is almost the one that is always. If you want to choose, or if you find the answer for dialogue questions, focus on polite, focus on logical idea, focus on relevant information, cooperative and emotionally controlled. emotionally controlled. You have to focus on three of things. So please give attention to such types of issue or points when you answer dialogue questions. Kanaaf qabxiiwwan kana beekuun isin fayyada jechuudha. Gaaffii diyaaloogii wajjin wal qabatanii jiran deebisuudhaaf eenyutu haasaa jira, eenyutu immoo deebii kennaa jira. Kamiifiyyuu dubbiiwwan sana keessatti yeroo hunda nuti gaaffii nuti irratti hundaa'uu qabnu kan polite ta'e fudhanna. Polite conversation. For exam, better to choose from the formal, that means the polite dialogue. Then let's see. What you never forget, please give attention to such type. Important. We will see such types in this presentation. Look, I couldn't agree more, but you have to know this means always strongly. I couldn't agree more. It looks like negative, but it's positive. That means I totally agree. I totally agree. So I couldn't agree more is I totally agree. Kana homma kana yoo ilaalle waan negative fakkaata garuu isin kan beeku qabdan I couldn't agree more jennaan namni kun walii galaa jira malee refuse gochaa jiru jechuudha. So the person is accepting this idea. I couldn't agree more means I totally agree. That means I accept your idea. The other, if somebody begins a conversation by using how long, somebody begins with how long indicates duration. This one is answered by hour, minute, or something with any point that related to duration. Any point that relates to duration. So maybe a week, a year, 5 months, whatever. So how long refers to duration. And how far is related to distance. And this one is answered with kilometer, and also meter, whatever distance. How far is distance? How long is duration? The other, if somebody begins a question by saying how do you do, your response should be how do you do. Because if somebody asks a question by starting with how do you do, you have to answer with how do you do also, because how do you do is not a type of greeting. It's not a real question. A real question or a real question for greeting is how are you. So how do you do is used for the person we see for the first time. Namuma agarre tokkoof nama kana dura waliin beekne tokkoof maal jenna jechuudha, how do you do. Kanaaf gaafa gaaffiin tokko how do you do jedhee jalqabu namni sunis kan deebii kennus maal jechuu qaba jechuudha, how do you do. So how do you do is answered by how do you do, whereas how are you is answered by the correct answer for how are you. The person can say I am fine, thank you. Or if somebody says how are you, then I'm doing well. If somebody says how are you, then the one who give a response can say I'm okay. Then if somebody say how are you, they not bad, thanks, because this one is the real question for greeting. Real question for greeting, but this one is it's not a real question. Not a real question for greeting. Rather, the person is using as introducing himself to someone else. Nama jalqaba wal agarre tokkoof nama maqaa isaan beekne waa'ee isaan beekne tokkoof maal jennee jalqabna jechuudha. Yoo nagaa akkuma nagaatti kan fayyadamnu how do you do. Yoo garuu nama sana nama beeknu ta'e namatti simnu ta'e waa'ee nagummaa isaa fayyummaa isaa gaafachaa jirra waan ta'eef maal jenna jechuudha, how are you. So how are you and how do you do are not the same. Kanaan kun baay'ee isin barbaachisa beekuu qabdu jechuudha. Kanaaf how long jedhee gaafannaan duration dhaan deebiftu, how are miti ta'uu danda'a. How far jennaan distance gaafachaa jirra jechuudha. How long Addis Ababa to Hambo, if somebody says how far, how long, both are possible. If somebody say how long Addis Ababa to Hambo, then you answer with how, 5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours we can say. And if somebody asks how far Hambo to Addis Ababa, then you can say 100 kilometer, 200 kilometers just like that, not in time. Then how do you do? How do you do the response? The best response for how do you do is how do you do, because it's the first in a person we know. If you do not know the person for before, and we use this one, this expression for the first time. Nama takkan beekne tokkoof kana fayyadamna jechuudha. Nama agarree tokkoof immoo hiriyaa keenya taanaan, nama beeknu taanaan immoo maal jenna? How are you? The other, if I mind, look, yes means is equal with I mind. That means refusal. This means, example, if somebody says, do you mind? If somebody begins with, do you mind? Do you mind? Do you mind? If the person begins with, do you mind? If you say yes, if that means you are refusing. You are refusing. And if the person says, do you mind? If it begins with one, if you say, I don't mind, you are accepting their idea, acceptance. Because the difference, do you mind? Yeah, you have to give attention to the word or the expression, do you mind, always. It's the most important. If somebody begins a conversation by, do you mind? If you agree or if you want to accept the idea, you have to respond negative. If somebody say, do you mind if I using your phone? Look, do you mind if I use your phone? If somebody say, no, I don't mind. If you say, no, I don't mind, that means you are accepting his idea. And you are allowing him or her to use your phone or whatever he asks. Do you mind? Do you mind if I use your phone? No, I don't mind. That means take it. But if you say, yes, I do mind, that means I'm using it. Politely refusing it means. So, yes, I do mind is negative, whereas no, I don't mind is positive. No, I don't mind. That means yes, acceptance shows acceptance, and yes, I mind is refusal. Refuse, saying no. Refusal means say no. Acceptance means say yes. Are we good? So give attention when the person begins with do you mind. Kanaaf amma gaafa gaaffiin kanaan sin gaafatamu baay'ee of eeggannoo an deebisuu qabu jechuudha. Gaaffiin amma fakkeenya do you mind jedhee gaafataanan, do you mind jedhee gaafannaan waan sana yoo tole jechaa jirta yoo ta'e yookiin yoo deeggaraa jirta yoo ta'e maal jechuu qabda? Negative an deebisu. Fakkeenyaaf amma scriptoo kee kana yoon fayyadame sitti tola yoo jedhe fakkeenyaaf gara Amaariffaatti irra sii hubatama jedhee yaada. ቅር ይላል የሚለው ማለት ነው። ለምሳሌ አንድ ሰው የሆነ ነገር መጠቀም ከፈለገ do you mind የከጀቹ ቅር ይላል yoo jedhema yes yoo jette eeyyee atin tolu yookiin hin ta'uun fudhatin jettu. Garuu immoo no I don't mind yoo jette immoo rakkoon qabu. No rakkoon qabu fudhadhu. No I don't mind. So no I don't mind when we say you are saying yes. You are allowing him to use. The other, here it is. The difference between here it is and here you are is also most important. Here it is and here you are. Here it is means locating, identifying something. But here you are is handing or giving something to someone. We will see one when we start the presentation also. Kun akka qabxiiwwan akka iyyootti waan ilaaltaniif isinii kaa'ame qabxiiwwan kana yeroo hunda ka ilaaltanidha jechuun jechoota kana beekuutu irraa eegama. Diyaaloogii keessatti gaaffiiwwan kun baay'ee barbaachisoo warra ijoo waan ta'aniif gaaffiiwwan kanaan jalqabu attentioniidhaan ilaaluu qabdu jechuudha. How long, how far, how do you do, how are you, and also do you mind? Very important. Here it is and here you are. Not the same also. Example, if somebody asks you to give him something. Example, dialogue between driver and the traffic. Then if he asks, would you show me your driving license? Then here it is. If he say the person is not giving or not handing, rather he is locating. But if the person says here you are, the person is handing or giving something to someone. Gaafa here it is jennu argisiisaa jirra jechuudha malee itti kennaa jiru. Qubaan itti agarsiisa bakka inni itti argamu. Here it is jechuun kunnooti. Kunoo kan jennu jechuudha. Malee gaafa garuu here you are jennu immoo itti hidhachaa jiraachuu keenya. Harkaan itti keenyaa jiraachuu keenya agarsiisa. Kanaaf wanta yeroo tokko lamaan isaa deebii ta'uu danda'a. Lamaan isaa deebii ta'uu danda'a. Garuu here you are gaafa jennu yeroo itti hidhachaa jirru. Here it is yeroo jennu immoo argisiisaa jirra malee nama sanatti kennaa jiru jechuudha. Kanaaf kanallee garaagarummaa isaa beekuu qabdu jechuudha. Mee gosoota dialogue ilaalame waliin. Types of dialogue questions. Types of dialogue questions with appropriate response and expressions. Look, the first one is requesting or asking for help or asking for permission. Namni tokko gaafa waa gaafatu gargaarsaaf yookiin eeyyama wayii gaafatu maal jalqabuu qaba jechuudha. Kanneen expressionii ta'an kana keessaa tokkoon jalqabuu danda'a. Could you please? Would you mind? May I? Do you mind if? Is it possible to? These are the polite. They are polite. Yeroo hundumaa waan isin gochuu qabdan gaafa irratti kan nama gaafatamu irra caalaa polite, impolite akkam ta'e. Polite. Kanaaf if somebody begins with could you please? Would you mind? May I? Then the correct response, if you accept this, if somebody asks you, would you mind if I use your phone? Do you mind if I use your phone? If somebody say, then if you accept his idea, you can say, certain. That means you can use, of course. Not at all. Go ahead. That means you are accepting his idea or her idea. Sure, no problem. And a polite refuser. If you refuse, but the way you refuse should be polite. I'm afraid I can't. If somebody says, could you please give me your book? I'm afraid I can't. Would you mind if I use your mind? Sorry, I'm unable now. Sorry, I'm unable now. I wish I could, but this means polite. Polite refusing. Amma wanta kanamu gaafa waan akkas jiru gaafa tokko namni tokko gargaarsa nu gaafachuu danda'a yookiin eeyyama nu gaafachuu danda'a. Maal fayyadame jechuudha? Expressionii warreen kana keessa tokko fayyadamee gargaarsa nu gaafachuu danda'a. Gaafa gargaarsa nu gaafatu immoo deebii gaafa kan kenninuuf certain jechuu dandeenya. Of course, not at all, go ahead, sure, no problem jechuu dandeenya. Garuu immoo waan sanatti waliin galle yoo ta'e immoo didaa jirta yoo ta'e immoo kanas karuma polite ta'e yookiin kara polite kara respect qabuun deebisuudhaaf kanneen sadan kana keessa fudhachuu dandeenya. I'm afraid I can't. Sorry, unable now. I wish I could. So I wish I could. Polite. I'm afraid. I'm sorry. I wish I could. So you can respond this one in a polite way. And this one is also possible, but it is impolite. Impolite way of responding. Kunillee nama sanaaf deebii deebisaa jiraachuu keenya agarsiisa garuu impolite way. Bifa impolite ta'edhaan. I don't care. Do it yourself. That's not my problem. No. So when you say such types, we are refusing, but the way we're refusing not this much good. When we give a response for someone or somebody else, we have to use polite response, not impolite response. So on exam also, always focus on the polite one, not impolite. Focus on the polite answer or polite ways of response. So this one is the first dialogue type, that is requesting. And the second type of dialogue. Before I proceed to the second type of dialogue, let me ask a question. Look, the person is supervisor and the student. Is a conversation between supervisor and the student. Supervisor says, would you mind submitting the revised draft by tomorrow afternoon? Would you mind? I told you before, when the speaker or the one who has question begins with such types of question, that means, would you mind or do you mind? You have to give attention. Is the indirect way of asking, respect. Would you mind submitting the revised draft by tomorrow afternoon? Then student blank. I don't see why that's necessary. Yes, I mind actually. Yes, I mind actually means the person is supporting or against. Certainly, I'll make sure it is ready by the award submitted something similar. So this one is in polite way. Would you mind submitting the revised draft by tomorrow afternoon? If yes, here, no, I don't mind. If you say that's correct answer, but now the correct answer is certain. I'll make sure it is ready by the second question. Is a conversation between passenger and a seatmate. Could I possibly open the window? It's a bit warm in here. Then seatmate says blah. No, that's annoying. Do whatever you want. I suppose so, if it helps. Why are you asking me? So I think I suppose this is the polite way of answering. So it was also I suppose if it helps. Then the other, do you mind if I, here is I missed here. Do you mind if I turn on the TV? Do you mind if I turn on the TV? Then Bonsa said blank space. I'm not studying. I need a break. I need a break or rest. Now I'm not using it because I need a break. Then do you mind if I turn on the TV? Yes, I do mind. Yes, I do mind means can they go together here? I'm not studying. I need a break. Yes, I do mind means indirectly do not turn on. It's refusing. Refusing. First one is accepting. If you see one, accepts. No, I don't mind. That means accept the idea. The person accepts the idea. No mind. If I say no, we have to use I don't. If I say yes, yes I mind. We don't say no I mind. Rather we have to say yes I mind. Yes, go ahead. Here I'm not studying. I need a break. So here, yes, I do mind means refusing. No, I don't mind means the person saying okay. And also yes, go ahead. So it's opposite. Yes, go ahead means open it, no problem. No, I don't mind. No problem, you can open, say. So if a person begins with do you mind, you have to give attention. Kanaaf amma namni tokko do you mind yeroo nu gaafatu waan sana yoo deeggaraa jirte negative aan deebisu. Yoo waan sana didaa jirte immoo positive aan deebisu. Kanaaf amma no I don't mind jechuun rakkoon qabu. Yes, no, here, sorry for me, here is yes jedhee jira waan ta'eef kun hin ta'u. Yes jennaan maal gochaa jira refuse gochaa jira. Kanaaf yes jedhee go ahead jechuun hin asitti maal jedha? Do you mind jennaan yes jennaan didaa jirtaa jechuudha malee tole jechaa jirtu waan sana. Yeroo namni do you mind jedhee jalqabu yes jennaan didaa jirtaa jechuudha. Garuu do you mind jedhee jalqabnaan no jetteenna waan sana fudhachaa jirtaa. Kanaaf do you mind if I turn on the TV? No, I don't mind. That means no problem. No problem. Yes means yeah, it's a problem. That means you can't open or you can't turn on the TV. It means so the correct answer is B. B is correct. The second type of dialogue is apologizing or saying sorry. Amamo akkamitti nama dhiifama akka gaafatan. How do we ask excuse if we made a mistake? The second type of dialogue is this type, apologizing or saying sorry. So with polite apology of expressions, polite apology. I'm sorry for, I sincerely apologize. Please forgive me. I didn't mean to. I take full responsibility. Then if the person begins with this one or one of this, is a polite way of asking apologize. So it's the best. And if you're angry, then how do you respond or polite response to apology? If somebody asks you excuse, or if say somebody say sorry, how do you respond? You can say that's okay, no problem, don't worry about it, understand. So you can use one of it. If somebody say I'm sorry for being late, that's okay. That means no matter, no problem. I don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I understand. So please forgive me for the mistake that what I made yesterday. If somebody says one, don't worry about this. That means you are okay. So if somebody begins with one of these expressions, and if you are okay with that idea, you have to select one of these expressions in order to answer it politely. And this one in impolite way also we can say we can respond, but it's in polite way. I don't care. That is your problem. You are always mess things up. Whatever. If somebody says what, just in polite way. So on exam, always we have to focus on the polite expression. Amma utu bifa kanan dialogue nu kenname nuti kan deebisuu qabnu isa kam jechuudha, isa polite ta'edhaan. Polite ta'e keessa ablachu. Malee hundisaa deebii ta'uu danda'a. In polite way deebisuu dandeenya. Garuu qormaata afaan irratti nuti kan irratti xiyyeeffannu maal jechuudha? Polite way. Look at this question. Student between a student and a lecturer. Student says, I'm terribly sorry for, look, ways of asking apologize. Correct way of asking. I'm terribly sorry for missing the presentation yesterday. The lecturer, blank. You should be more serious next time. That's unacceptable behavior. I appreciate your apology. Please ensure it doesn't happen again. Excuses won't help. That means will not. Excuses will not help. Can you say it one? Excuses will not help. This one is impolite. That's an acceptable behavior. We can say this one also. So student and the lecturer, the dialogue between them is formal. So the lecturer can answer by saying one, I appreciate your apology. Please ensure that doesn't happen again. Is when we accept the apology, you can say I appreciate, no matter, no problem, take it easy. You can say so. This person is accepting the idea. The other is a colleague between colleagues and you. I apologize for the confusion caused by email. I apologize for the confusion caused by email. Now this one also I apologize. Polite way of asking it. Apology. Then you say it wastes everyone's time. Can you say this one? No. That's fine. Thanks for clarifying. You should be more careful. I was very annoyed. So I apologize for this confusion caused by email. That's fine. Thanks for clarifying. So the answer is B. The third type of dialogue question is making complaint. Making complaint means if you are not satisfied or if you are dissatisfied with certain services, the way you explain your opinion or your complaint is what you call complaint. So here a polite complaint expression. If we are not satisfied with certain thing, these are the expressions that we use in order to express our feelings. Maba tokko komii irraa yoo naqamne ta'e waa tokko irraa komii qabne yoo ta'e komii keenya ibsachuudhaaf karaa polite ta'e expressionii yookiin jechoota kun gaalawwan kana jalqabuu dandeenya. I'm afraid there is a problem with the you add. I would like to complain about. I'm sorry to say this, but I'm not satisfied with. Then these are a polite complaint expressions. And if somebody begins, say this one, if you accept the complaint, the way you respond, I'm sorry to hear that. We will look into it immediately. We'll look into it immediately. Or thank you for bringing this to our attention. One is two. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I'll take care of it. So these are a polite way of response for complaint. And also it's impolite. Impolite. That's not my fault. Stop complaining. Deal with it. It's none of my business. It's none of my business. These are the impolite way of answering or responding to certain expressions or issue. Let me ask you a question also based on this one. Try to answer this question. I'm afraid the service didn't meet my expectation. Look, the conversation between customer and the manager. Customer said, I'm afraid the service didn't meet my expectation. Example, if you bought something from certain shop and after that you are not satisfied with that material that you bought, you back to that person and explain your complaint by saying, I'm afraid the service didn't meet my expectation. The manager said blah. So the manager must respond politely. Polite. Because it's a conversation between customer and the manager. That's unfortunate. We are sorry to hear that. Could you explain the issue in more detail? Other customer didn't complain. You should lower your expectation. So which one is best for this one? I'm afraid the service didn't meet my expectation. So the manager said, we are sorry to hear that. Could you explain the issue in more detail? That means the person is accepting his idea and wants to solve the problem. What was the second one? Guest and recipient. The guest and receptions. Guest said, there seems to be a mistake in my hotel bill. Then receptions, blah. There seems to be a mistake in my hotel bill. A. Bills are always correct. I don't handle payment. C. That's not possible. D. Let me check that for you immediately. So the polite ways, let me check that for you immediately, the best one. Because the person is complaining. It's not satisfied. The fourth type of dialogue question is agreeing and disagreeing. If you agree with certain idea, how do you answer or how do you explain our agreements? And if you disagree, how do you express our disagreements? Now these are the expressions that we use in order to agree with somebody else. If you are agree, you can say I agree with you. I couldn't agree more. Give attention to this one. I couldn't agree more is I totally agree. I couldn't agree more. That means I totally agree. It looks like negative when you see. Looks like negative, but it's positive. That means the person is accepting his idea. I couldn't agree more. That's absolutely right. Or you can say sure, exactly. Or you can say absolutely. Or you can say you are right. Similar to this, the polite response to disagreement. If you disagree, and also you give your opinion in a polite way of disagreeing, I'm afraid I disagree. You can say possible also. I don't quite agree with you. That might be true. However, it's partial agreement. I see your point, but it's partial agreement also. It's not 100% agree, but partial agreement. I see your point, but that may be true, but however, I don't quite agree with that. I'm afraid I disagree. Then the impolite disagreement expression. If you disagree with the person's idea, these are the impolite way of responding. when somebody asks us whether we agree or disagree with certain issue, then can say you are wrong. That's nonsense. I don't care. I couldn't agree less. These are the negative expressions. Have you got the difference? So if somebody asks you dialogue question with this, you have to choose one of this if you are agree, and if you disagree, you can choose one of this. Let's practice this question. There's a question between student A and student B. Student A asked, I believe the author's argument intentionally ambiguous. I believe the author's argument is intentionally ambiguous. That's completely wrong. Is it polite way? No. I see your point, though I interpret it slightly different. I see your point, that means support. No, that's not impolite. It's impolite. And this was so impolite. Then the other, you didn't read the properly. That means you didn't read it properly. The one is also impolite. So the correct one is B. I see your point, so I interpret it slightly different. The other, the colleagues and you, the meeting should have been handled more efficiently. The meeting should have been handled more efficiently. Then you blank. The conversation between colleagues and you. A. I couldn't agree more. It lacks clear direction. X. Meetings are always boring. C. That's none of my business. That's none of. D. Who cares? So the meeting should have been handled more efficient. I couldn't agree more means I totally agree. It lacked clear directions. So the second one is number 5. The fifth type of dialogue question is giving opinion. How do we give opinion? Ways of giving opinion. If somebody asks us our opinion, in order to give our opinion, how do we give opinion? This is a polite way of giving opinion. Want to correct namni tokko yoo yaada nu gaafate akkamiin akka deemu kara polite kam ta'eena kara impolite kam ta'e garuu kan nuti filachuu qabnu qormaata keessatti gaafa hunduu kanuu kenna bifa polite dhaan ta'uu qaba jechuudha. Amma namni tokko gaafee in my opinion, I believe that these ways of giving opinion on certain issue. As far as I'm concerned, from my point of view or from my outlook, in my view, it seems to me that this giving opinion. Example, if somebody says deforestation is important, if somebody says one, in my opinion, it's not good. In my opinion, people must protect trees rather than cutting. So these are polite way of giving your opinion. In my opinion, I believe that. As far as I know, as far as I concern, from my point of view, in my view, it seems to me that. Then these are polite way of asking the expressions. The other, the polite response. How do you give a response? I agree. That's an interesting point. I see what you mean. So the one is also for polite response. Polite response. Do you agree with the idea? The other impolite opinion expressions, impolite. I don't care what you think. This is the truth. Accept it. Nonsense idea. So these are impolite ways of giving expressions for opinion. Opinion giving. Let me ask a question. What's your view on collaborative research? What's your view on collaborative research? a candidate. This is a conversation between interviewer and the candidate. The interviewer asks this question: what's your view on collaborative research? What your view means, what's your idea? Asking the person's opinion. What's your opinion? Then candidate says it depends. I don't have any strong feelings about this. In my view, it enhances both quality and innovation when managed well. Everyone knows this better. So, the appropriate answer for this one is C. In my view, it enables or it enhances both quality and innovation when managed. Is the correct answer. Number 2, the conversation between professor and student. Professor says, do you think the methodology was appropriate? Do you think the methodology was appropriate? Then student say blank. Yes. Not really. I believe it was appropriate, though it could be strengthened in with more the idea. Next, D, you choose it, so it must be right. So what's the appropriate answer for this one? The person asks, do you think the methodology was appropriate? It asks, or he asks, your idea or opinion. Then I think, it seems, as far as I concerned, it was appropriate, though it could be strengthened with more. So the answer is C, the correct. Sellee haaluma kanaan gaaffiiwwan kanaan wal qabatan kitaaba adda addaa irraa refer gootanii akka hojjettanii fi qormaataaf akka qopheessitaniifidha. Kanaaf isin yeroo dubbiftan gaaffiin naa kenname kun yookiin wanti gaafatamaa jiru kun idea giving jedhamu yookiin giving idea jedhamu, agreeing and disagreeing jedhamu, requesting jedhamu kan jedhuuf gaafachaa deemu. Maaliif the expressions that we use for asking and the expression for that we use for giving opinion is not the same. Each of them have their own, or each of them are their own expressions. So we have to use appropriate expression for each type of dialogue. Gosoota dialoogii kana hunduma isaaniif iyyuu kan ittiin gaafannu haala poolaayitiitiin kan ittiin deebii laannu kan ofii isaanii qabu waan ta'eef tokko tokkoon adda baasanii deemuun gaariidha jechuudha. Mee gaaffii sadaffaa gaalee ilaala. This plan will definitely fail. This plan will definitely fail. Candidate says, you are totally wrong. Can you say you are totally wrong? This one is impolite. It can be the answer. It can be the response, but this one is impolite. Gaaffii kanaaf deebii haa ta'u iyyuu malee impolite jedhama. Impolite way of response waan ta'eef nutuma kan barbaannu waan polite barbaanna. I don't think so. That's nonsense. I see your point, but I think it may succeed. Oh, I see your point. I see your point. The sixth type of dialogue question is asking for clarification. If somebody begins with, could you please explain that again? What do you mean by? What do you mean by? Do you mean that? Could you be more specific? These are the expressions that we can ask someone for clarification. If something is unclear for you, you can use one of these expressions in order to ask the person to make it clarify for you. Waan tokko kasi si hin galle yoo ta'e, waan tokko hin hubanne yoo ta'e, nama sana deebitee akka inni irra sii deebi'u yookiin akka inni sii hubachiisu odeeffannoo dabalataa akkasii kennu yoo barbaadde kanneen kana keessaa tokko filata jechuudha. Would you please take this? What do you mean by? Example, if the person thought about economic growth. If you don't know what economic growth is, could you please explain that again? You can say what? What do you mean by economic growth? Do you mean that? Then you paraphrase it and they ask in another way. So this was the polite expression that somebody can use in order to ask clarification. Then the impolite clarification also, speak clearly. What are you talking about? That makes no sense. It's also impolite clarification. Try to this question. The conversation between instructor and the student. The instructor is saying, make sure the discussion reflects the theoretical implications. Make sure the discussion reflects the theoretical implications. Theoretical expressions. The student says, that's confusing. Could you clarify which theory you would like to emphasize? I already did that. I don't think that's necessary. So it is a conversation between instructor and the student. So the person or the instructor said, make sure the discussion reflects the theoretical implication. Then the student do not or doesn't identify what type of theoretical this person is talking about. So the correct answer, could you clarify which theory you would like to emphasize, is the best answer. Question number 2. Team leader, let's align the objectives before finalizing the reports. He says, let's align the objectives before finalizing the report. Remember, that's unnecessary. B, we already finalized everything. C, do you mean revising the current objectives entirely? You decide. So the person asks, let's align the objectives before finalizing the report. Then, do you mean revising the current objectives entirely? Is the correct answer. The other ways of giving advice. If somebody wants to give advice for someone else, you can use one of these expressions, or these are the best expressions in order to give polite advice for someone else. You should. You might want to. If I were you, it would be better to. These are polite ways of giving advice. If I were you, I don't repeat it such that. If I were you, I don't understand. You should respect elders, such types. Then the impolite way of giving advice also. Do this. You must do this. You are doing the wrong. Only a fool would do that. So here, when you say do this, is commanding. Here, explanation given, you should be suggest, not commanding. When giving advice, when somebody asks advice, you're not commanding. Rather, you have to be suggest. That means generate idea and giving idea for that person. But if you say do this, is impolite. You must do this is also impolite. So there's a ways of asking, and there's this parts ways of giving impolite ways of giving response. Now let's try to these questions. Some of them are taken from Interant exam, and some of them are compiled. Please try to answer or try to give answer before saying the answer which is given from this video. Utu asirraa isiniif kenname isin ofii keessanii yaalatii deebisa. Amma gaafichi maal jedhee jalqabe jechuudha. How long jedhee qaba. How long? How long maal agarsiisa jennutu? How long duration or distance? How long is duration, not distance. Duration. And duration can be answered by, can be hour, it can be minutes, it can be day, week, or whatever. Then this person said, how long does it take? How long does it take to dread hour? Then it depends on your drive. No more than 50%. Is the person asking about money? No. The radar is very far. Is the person asking is distance? Is around 500 kilometers. Is the person begins with how far? If the person begins with how far, that is this one is correct. But the person begins with how long, which is related to how. It depends on your drive. That means if you drive quickly, you will arrive soon. If you drive slowly, you will arrive within 2 hours, 5 hours, or within a day. Such types of response expected from when the person asks a certain idea by using how. The second question also taken from entrance exam. How do you do, sir? How do you do? So what's the correct response for the person when he or she begins with how do you do? So how do you do? What you know? How do you do? How do you do? When somebody begins with what is what indicates as a person is new person. It's not for our friend. Not for our mate or classmates. Not for our classmate or the person we know very well. This one is not a real question. Not a real question. So when somebody begins with how do you do, your response must be also how do you do. I'm fine. How are you? If the person begins with how are you, you can't say. If this one is how are you? How are you? Here if the person says how are you, sir, then your answer can be I'm fine. How are you? I'm fine. How do you do? Very well. How do you do? So but the person only begins with how do you do. So the correct response for how do you do is how do you do, sir? Question number 3. Teacher and student. Teacher say, how far is the school from your home? It's also taken from entrance exam. Willee gaaffii entrance irraa fudhatamanidha. Kun maal isinitti agarsiisuudhaa fi jechoonni akkasii deddeebiin akka dhufan waan ta'eef isin yeroo hundumaa xiyyeeffannoo akka kennitaniidhaaf achirraa foon isinitti agarsiisaa jechuudha. Maaliif ammas deebii dhufuu danda'a waan ta'eef gaaffiin kanaan wal qabatu isin yeroo hundumaa gaaffichi maaliin jalqabe kan jedhu how far, how long wal lama fakkaatu waan ta'eef adda baafachuudha. How far jennaan maaliin deebisuudha? Distanceedhaan kan deebisuudha. How long jennaanis maaliin deebina? Duration kan jennu hour ta'uu danda'a, minutes ta'uu danda'a, a day ta'uu danda'a, an hour ta'uu danda'a. So how far and how long is not the same. Now the person says how far. So we have directly select the one which go with kilometers because distance. I often arrives. I often. If the person says how often, so then it shows frequency. Then the person can say I often 2 hours. If the person begins with how long. Then how long and the how long is the school from your home? 2 hours you can say. I always travel by bus. The person or the speaker doesn't ask you how do you go to school. If the person says how do you go to school, then you can say I always travel by bus. Is the correct answer. But now the person say how far. The person is seeking or wants to know the distance between. So the correct answer is A. Question number 2. The conversation between sister and mother. Ma, Hirut failed her exam again. It's also taken from exam, national exam. Ma, Hirut failed her exam again. Mother, I know she is very good. So disappointing. Are you sure? It should be very difficult, I suppose. Exams does not measure one's read ability. So how do you express your feelings? To express your feelings, I use So disappointing. What a pity. So I so disappointing is the answer. Are you sure? Next question number 5 is a conversation between policeman and witness. The policeman asked, "Tell me why you saw, or tell me what you saw happening at the scene of the incident." The person is asking the incident. What happened at the scene? Then the scene was full of people as usual. It seems they don't have anything to do. Is talk about the incident? No. But the police asking the incident. What happened? I saw a crowd of people, some of who were aimlessly wandering around. Is the person asking about what the people were doing there? No. But he asks, tell me what you saw at the scene for incidents. The person is asking the incidents, what happened at that time. I was surprised to see the girls with beautiful long hair trying to talk to me. It's not appropriate answer also. First, he snatches his purse. Here is even what happened during the incident. First, he snatched his purse and then no time vanished into the village. So the correct answer for this one is D is the correct answer. Because this answers the intention. No, I mean incidents one by one. First, after that. Number 6. Between Tolera and Jamal, Tolera said, everyone prefers working alone to working in teams. He says everyone prefers working alone to working in teams. It is one. How does the person answer? Here, full stop. There's a full stop here. Many people actually perform better in groups. Look, this person said everyone prefers working alone to work in teams. This person says, Jamal says, many people actually perform better in groups. Is the person is supporting his idea? A. I don't see it. B. I hold the same opinion. This means supporting. Exactly. This man also supporting. I couldn't agree more means also I strongly agree supporting. I strongly agree. Also agree. This one's agree also. So I don't think so is the best answer. Because he said here everyone prefers working alone to working in teams. But this person says many people actually perform better in groups. So opposite. Oh, the correct answer for this one is I don't think so is the correct answer. Next question. Do you mind if I use your phone? Look, now it begins with do you mind? When the person begins with do you mind, if you are okay, begin with negative. And if you are not okay, begin with yes. Now, Chala asked it, do you mind if I use your phone? Chenabdi blank. I am using it right now. I am using it right now. Is the person asking? Here, I am using it right now. Is the person is supporting or against? Do you mind if I use your phone? Then blank space here, comma. I am using it right now. I am using it right now means opposing, refusal. Refusal. Which one is a polite way of refusing something? Yes, please. I'm using it right now. Then do you mind says yes, I do mind. No, I don't mind. No, I don't mind means accept. Accept the idea. No, not at all also. Accepting the idea. Yes, please. We do use most of the time yes, no are very short. Yes, I do mind. Then the person, do you mind? Yes, I do mind. This means I'm using it in other ways. So the correct answer is also yes, I do mind. That means polite way, but refusal. So if when the person asks begins with "Do you mind?" we have to go the opposite. That means if the person say yes, refusing. But if the person say no, that person is accept. The other, the conversation between Fufa and the Sena. Fufa says something, then Sena answer is about 10 kilometers. It's about 10 kilometers. Is the person begins with how long? How often? How wide? How long is the bus station from here? How long is the bus station? No, this one is how far? Make it how far is one? B is how far? How far the bus station from here? How often is the bus station from here? How wide is the bus station from here? Now 10 kilometers. 10 kilometers indicates what? Distance. Distance. Then for distance we have to use how far, not how long. So the correct answer for that is how far. How far is the bus station from here? Then Sena say it is about 10 kilometers. If Sena says here is this 1 hour, it's about 1 hour. If 1 hour is given here, an hour, if somebody say it's around an hour, but they think it's one, then at that time we have to say how long. When is it answered by how, a minute, an hour, we have to ask the question between by using how long. Whereas if the person asks or wants to ask the distance, we have to begin with how far. Next question is a conversation between traffic officer and driver. Is your license with you? Is your license with you? Driver, yes, black. On the dashboard. On the dashboard. If the person is handing, then what you never forget, qabxii gara qabaatti mention godhesnitti meera waan ta'e here it is fi here you are in garaagarummaa akka qaban here it is gaafa jennu locating, it is locating, but when it is here you are, here you are, this one is handing something to someone else. Gaaf tokko waan nama tokko gaafa harka keenyaan hiikanii namatti kenninu here you are. Gaafa immoo distance irratti namatti agarsiifnu here it is. Here it is and here you are is not the same. Kanaaf amma namni kun maal jedhe on the dashboard jechuun namatti agarsiisaa jira jechuudha. On the dashboard maal itti kennaa jira. Itti kennaa jiru ta'e maal jenna jechuudha. Here it is. Here it is. The other, Fufa said something here is question mark. Then Sena said, I'm fine, thanks. How about you? Is greeting. I'm fine, thanks. How about you? Then how should Fufa ask? How do you do? If somebody say how do you do, the response must be here. How do you do? But here I'm fine, thanks. If says I'm fine, thanks was a real question for greeting. If it's a real question for greeting, we have to say how are you? How are you? I'm fine, thanks. How about you? But if the person says how do you do here, the and here should be also how do you do. So how are you is a real question for greeting, but how do you do is we use for introducing ourselves. How do you do? How do you do? For the if we meet the person for the first time, we have to say how do you do. The other questions. Look, the conversation between traffic officer and also driver. Traffic officer says, good morning. May I see your driving license, please? Driver say, good morning, officer. Here, full stop. Blank space, you're going to choose between here it is or here you are. Traffic officer again says, thank you. And your vehicle registration, asking another thing also here. Driver, blank. It's valid until next year. Traffic officer, alright. Please wait a moment. Wait a moment. Wait a moment, says. Driver, no problem. Officer. Now, the best response for both blank space are respectively just whether it is here you are or here it is. Here says, good morning. May I see your driving license, please? Then this one says, driver, good morning, officer. Since he asks his driving license, the person must give him a driving license. So you have to say here you are. Here you are. Then traffic officer say thank you. And your vehicle registration, asking another. Then driver also must say here you are. It's valid until next year. Alright. The officer says, alright. Please wait a moment. Amannitti kenne jechuudha harkaan irratti kenne kana bodne mona eegti jechaa jira harka isaarra jira wante driving license isa sun. Now the best answer for your this one is here you are. Here you are. Here you are. Here you are. So the best answer is C. Thank you very much for your attention from the beginning to the end. In next part, we will see the golden rules for dialogue answering questions, and also the role of WH questions in dialogue answering questions. Kanaaf amma dhumaatum dhaggeeffachuu keessaniif galatoomaa jechaa paartii dhufu keessatti immoo seerota dialoogii wajjin wal qabatan dialoogii salphaatti akka deebisuu danda'aniif seerawwan jirantu jiru. Seeras waan sana qabannee dhiyaanna jechuudha. Yoo dabaltanii maateriaalii kan biraa irratti barbaadee dubbiftan salphaatti wanta kana sirriitti digest gochuu dandeessu waan ta'eef kan recommendation goonu sinillee kun akka hintiitti kan siin ta'u waan ta'eef dabalataan information itti barbaadee dubbisuudha. Qabxiiwwan kun qormatarraa hin dhufuu jennee kan ta'e maaliif communicative partiin beekamaadha waan ta'eef qophaa'anii itti deemuudha waan ta'eef sin dubbisuutu sinirraa eegama jechuudha. Waan asirratti sinitti himne immoo hin dagatinaa qabsiisa qabachaa deemaa irra deebi'aa dubbisaa siniin jenna. Barannoo fuunamma wal agarrutti nagaatti.